Welcome, brothers and sisters. Today it's Jess and Jericho, and today we are talking about clean and unclean animals, Yah's food for us. This is part 1. So this is a beautiful summary that one of the sisters here said at CCC. Food is not unclean. Certain animals are unclean, and therefore they are not food. So I think that really captures the whole idea of this and something to think about throughout the study. Thank you. Special thank you to Covenant Calendar Classroom for your dedicated research and time. Thank you for helping us understand Yah's calendar and to walk in his ways. Yahuwah bless you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So I have some questions. What does Scripture, more importantly Torah, say about creation of these animals? What were we designed to eat based on Torah? What happened that changed and what we can and cannot eat? Was there a reset or cleanup on what is eaten and not eaten? Which animals are clean and which are unclean? And how can we apply this knowledge to how we eat and how we shop for food? Part 1, we're going to talk about creation. So creations of animals, creations of man, definitions, first commands of food, and Garden of Eden. Part 2 is corruption. So Garden of Eden continued, curses set upon animals, curses set upon man and women, and further corruption. Part 3, cleanup on aisle 3, Noah, ark, and flood, first mention of clean animals, Yah's promise to us. And part 4, clean and unclean, animal definitions of clean and unclean, and how this applies to our daily lives. So part 1, creation of animal and man, definitions, first commands of food, and the Garden of Eden. So the first creation of animals, and Elohim said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that has life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open expanse of heaven. And Elohim created great dragons and every living creature that moves, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply and fill the waters and the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth. Of course, this is from Genesis. So we have creature, dragons, and fowl. Creature means swarmers, minute animals, creeping things, small reptiles. Dragons are serpent, dragon, sea monster. It's interesting that they use the same word to define the word. And this is from a website that goes through Strong's, Brown Driver Briggs, and Gesenius. Fowl, a bird flying, fowl, winged insects, and then it was italicized, fowl of the sky. The second creation of animals, and Elohim said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping things and beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so. And Elohim made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creeps upon the earth after his kind, and Elohim saw that it was good. So both times he saw that it was good. So we have cattle, a dumb beast, large quadruped or animal, beast, cattle, living creatures other than man. Creature, this is a different word for creature, soul, self, life, creature, person, living being, breath of life, breathing creature. Beast, living, alive, green, vegetation in parentheses, flowing, water in parentheses, life, animal, revival, appetite. Creeping things, a reptile or any other rapidly moving animal that creepeth, creeping things, moving things, whatever creeps upon the ground. So the first creation of man, and Elohim said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him, male and female created he them. And Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. So for this word fowl, it's the same definition that we looked at, bird, flying, or winged insect. Same for cattle, large quadruped or animal, beast, living creatures other than man. And for creeping thing, reptile, moving animal that creeps. For man, this is Adam, human being, mankind. Dominion, tread down, have dominion, prevail against, reign, rule, or take. And fish, almost always collective, fish of the sea, meaning the same, fish. So the first command of what to eat. And Elohim said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creeps upon the earth wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for food, and it was so. So this word herb means from an unused root meaning to glisten, in parentheses, or be green, grass, herb, herbage, but as human food for the food of man. For fruit, and then parentheses, full, fruitful, reward, absolute, especially construct whether of the earth in field or of a tree. And the definition of food, consume, devour, eat, food, meat, and then in italicized, devouring by wild beasts, only figurative of ravaged people, of the food of wild beasts. And it's interesting, the King James Version replaces the word food with meat in this verse. So the first command of what to eat was green herb for man and for all of beast. Second, creation and command. And Yahweh Elohim formed the man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. And Yahweh Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahweh Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We're continuing on second creation and command. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it, for in the day that you eat thereof you shall surely die. And Yahweh Elohim said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him. And out of the ground Yahweh Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto the man to see what he would call them. And whatsoever the man called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And the man gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for the man there was not found a helpmeet for him. So I underlined here to see what he would call them, and that was the name thereof, because again, this shows the command that man has dominance over all creeping things, all beasts, all fowl. It's interesting, though, that we have two separate creations of all of the animals and of man. So part one, recap for creation. Yahweh created all animals, all types of animals, flying birds and insects, creeping things, cattle, and other creatures. He created man and gave man dominion over all living creatures. We have two creations of this taking place. The second was in the Garden of Eden, where man names all living creatures, again, showing that we have dominion. Yahweh commanded that green herb and fruit was to be food for all living creatures. So all creatures, including man, in the Garden of Eden, the tree of knowledge of good and evil is not food. Part two, we have corruption. So we're going to continue in the Garden of Eden, curses set upon animals and man and woman, and further corruption. So the Garden of Eden continued. Along came the serpent and tempted the woman to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He was like, nah, you'll become Elohim. Just eat it, girl. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her man with her, and he did eat. So then Elohim is walking in the garden. He doesn't find Adam or his woman. And he's like, where are you? And they said, we hid because we're naked. And Elohim was like, who told you that you were naked? And Yahweh Elohim said unto the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon your belly shall you go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. So the serpent is cursed above all of the cattle and every beast. Curses on woman, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. It shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In sorrow you shall bring forth children, and your desire shall be to your man, and he shall rule over you. Curses on man. And unto Adam he said, because you have hearkened unto the voice of your woman, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it, curses the ground for your sake, in sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat bread, till you return unto the ground, for out of it were you taken, for dust you are, and unto dust shall you return. Then we have further corruption with Cain and Havel. And Adam knew that Chua, his woman, and she conceived and bore Cain and said, I have gotten a man from Yahuwah. And she again bore his brother Havel, and Havel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahuwah. And Havel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and of the fat thereof. And Yahuwah had respect unto Havel and his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So it's interesting that the fruit offering wasn't respected, but the meat and fat offering was. And Cain talked with Havel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Havel his brother and slew him. And Yahuwah said unto Cain, where is Havel your brother? And he said, I know now. Am I to guard my brother? What a smart aleck. And he said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries unto me from the ground. And now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened her mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto you her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shall you be in the earth. So here we have more corruption because he killed his brother just because he was jealous. And it's interesting because one of the commands is not to put other Elohim above Yahweh Elohim because he is a jealous El. So we see a little bit of ourselves since he created us in his image. Further corruption of man. There were Nephilim in the earth in those days, who also gathered afterward when the sons of Elohim came in unto the daughters of men, and they bore children unto them. The same became warriors and tyrants, which were from everlasting mortal men of the name. And Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And Yahweh repented that he made man on earth, and it grieved him in his heart. And Yahweh said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for I repent that I have made them. But Noach found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. Part 2, corruption recap. The serpent tempted the woman in the Garden of Eden to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This was the start of corruption and Yahweh's curses on beast and man. Cain was jealous of his brother and slew him because Yahweh favored Havel's offering of meat instead of fruit. The Nephilim also corrupted man, and Yahweh said he would destroy man and beast. So part 3, we have the cleanup or restoration, Noach, ark, and flood. First mention of clean animals and Yah's promise to us. But, I'll repeat this again, but Noach found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. The end of all flesh. The earth also was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. And Elohim looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And Elohim said unto Noach, in the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make you an ark of gopher wood, rooms shall you make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without pitch. So the cleanup begins, and behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth, and to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. But with you will I establish my covenant, and you shall come into the ark, you and your sons and your women, and your sons' women with you. Who goes on the ark? And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shall you bring into the ark, to keep them alive with you, they shall be male and female. Which animals? Of fowls after their kind, and of cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after his kind, 2 of every sort shall come unto you, to keep them alive. And what about food? And take unto you all food that is eaten, and you shall gather it to you, and it shall be food for you and for them. So the first mention of clean and unclean. Of every clean beast you shall take to you by 7s, the man and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by 2, the male and his female. So it's interesting, there's no definition or clarification of what is clean and unclean, but it's interesting that the first mention of clean and unclean, Noah was commanded to take more of the clean animals and less of the unclean animals. So it says, of fowls also of the air by 7s, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. So there's not really a distinction here. Are all fowls clean? And then we have the ultimate cleanup. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and the creeping things, and the fowl of the heavens, and they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. So definition of clean. And Noah went in, and his sons and his women and his sons' women with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood, of the clean beasts and the beasts that are not clean, and of fowls and of everything that creeps upon the earth. So this word clean, pure, clean, fair, pureness, ceremonially clean of animals, as opposed to unclean, polluted, hence applied to animals used in food. And you'll notice that it says not clean instead of unclean in this verse. Yahweh's promise. And Noah built an altar unto Yahweh, and took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl, and offered ascending smoke offerings on the altar. And Yahweh smelled a sweet savor, and Yahweh said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more everything living as I have done. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. So we have our cleanup recap. Yahweh saw that there was corruption and told Noah about the flood cleanup. Noah was instructed to bring on the ark clean and unclean animals. We do not get a distinction of what is clean and what is unclean yet. But interestingly, the instruction was to bring on more of the clean animals and fewer of the unclean animals. After the cleanup, Yahweh said he will not curse the ground or smite every living thing again. Part 4, clean and unclean. Animal definitions of clean and unclean, and how this applies to our daily lives. So our new command. And Elohim blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moves upon the earth, and upon all the fish of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. So this further goes into the idea of man having dominion over creatures. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things, but flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And in part 2, or maybe part 3, I don't know, it depends on how it goes, I will talk about blood, but we aren't going to talk about it in this one. So clean land animals, the distinction here is parts the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and chews the cud. So it must be all 3 of those. These are the beasts which ye shall eat, the ox, the sheep, and the goat, the deer, and the roebuck, and the fallow deer, and the wild goat, and the pygarg, and the wild ox, and the cameos, and every beast that parts the hoof and cleaves the cleft into two claws and chews the cud among the beasts that ye shall eat. That's from Deuteronomy chapter 14. These verses specifically are 4 through 6, but the entire chapter, Deuteronomy 14, talks about unclean and clean animals. And this one is from Leviticus, same thing, chapter 11, the entire chapter. But this verse specifically is verse 3. Whatsoever parts the hoof and is cloven-footed and chews the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat. So clean land animals, Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. Again, parts the hoof, cloven-footed, and chews the cud. So hoof definition is a claw or split hoof, claw, cloven-footed, hoof. Cloven-footed, a primitive root to split or tear, figuratively to upbraid, cleave, cloven-footed, divide, cleave, to cleave the cleft of the foot. Of the foof, of the foot is supposed to say. Cud, the cud, rumination, the food which ruminating animals brings up to chew. I originally thought that this meant that the animal is an herbivore and only eats grass. But what this actually means is with cows, they have a very complex digestive system, and these other animals, they have 4 stomach chambers. So what they do is they eat their food and they basically regurgitate it and chew it again. That's what chew the cud means. I thought that it meant chews grass, but it actually means that they regurgitate and then they chew it again. So from Oxford, the definition of ruminant is an even-toed ungulate, which is a hoofed mammal that chews the cud regurgitated from its rumen. That's one of the stomach chambers. The ruminants comprise the cattle, sheep, antelopes, deer, giraffes, and their relatives. And I'm going to go into more depth about the lifestyle and the diets of these animals in part 2. Unclean land animals. So again, Leviticus chapter 11, Deuteronomy chapter 14. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chews the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he chews the cud, but divides not the hoof. He is unclean to you. And the coney, because he chews the cud, but divides not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the hare, because he chews the cud, but divides not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven-footed, yet he chews not the cud, he is unclean to you. And this I'll talk about more in part 2 is pigs are omnivores, so they eat anything. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch, they are unclean to you. And the definition of swine is swine, boar, forbidden as food, as heathen offering, with implication of repulsiveness, simile of fair woman with a dubious character. Interesting. Unclean land animals continued. The carcasses of every beast which divides the hoof and is not cloven-footed, nor chews the cud, are unclean unto you. Every one that touches them shall be unclean. And whatsoever goes upon his paws among all manner of beasts that go on all 4, those are unclean unto you. Whoso touches their carcass shall be unclean until the even. And that's Leviticus chapter 11, 26 through 27. These also shall be unclean unto you among the creeping things that creep upon the earth, the weasel and the mouse and the tortoise after his kind, and the ferret and the chameleon and the lizard and the snail and the mole. These are unclean to you among all that creep. Whosoever touches them when they be dead shall be unclean until the even. 29 through 31. Flying animals. Of all clean birds ye shall eat, but these are they of which ye shall not eat: the eagle and the ossifrage and the osprey and the glade and the kite and the vulture after his kind, and every raven after his kind, and the owl and the nighthawk and the cuckoo and the hawk after his kind, the little owl and the great owl and the swan and the pelican and the gier eagle and the cormorant, and the stork and the heron after her kind, and the lapwing and the bat. And every creeping thing that flies is unclean unto you, they shall not be eaten. But of all clean fowls ye may eat. Now this wording is similar in both of these, Deuteronomy 14, 11 through 20, Leviticus 11, 13 through 20. The wording is a little different, but the animals are the same. Fowls definition here, a bird, flying fowl, winged insects. And from Oxford, fowl is a bird of the order Galliformes that is kept for its eggs and flesh, a rooster or hen. And from Britannica, Galliform is turkeys, chickens, quail, partridge, pheasant, guinea fowl, pheasant, grouse, etc. Sea animals must have fins and scales. These ye shall eat of all that are in the waters, all that have fins and scales shall ye eat. And whatsoever has not fins and scales ye may not eat, it is unclean to you. Whatsoever has no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. Insects. Yet these may ye eat of every flying creeping thing that goes upon all four, which have legs above their feet to leap withal upon the earth. Even these of them ye may eat, the locust after his kind, and the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind. But all other flying creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination unto you. And for these ye shall be unclean. Whosoever touches the carcass of them shall be unclean until the evening. And this is from Leviticus chapter 11, 21 through 25. Deuteronomy 14 actually does not talk about flying, creeping things. So here's a list of the animals that are actually specifically mentioned in scripture. So clean, we have ox, cow, or wild ox, sheep, goat, or wild goat, deer, or fallow deer, roebuck, pygarg, cameos, clean fowl, fish with fins and scales, locust, and also bald locust, beetle, and grasshopper. Unclean, camel, coney, hare, swine, weasel, mouse, tortoise, ferret, chameleon, lizard, snail, mole, eagle, gear-eagle, ossifrage, osprey, gled, kite, vulture, owl, nighthawk, cuckow, owl, all of them, swan, pelican, cormorant, stork, heron, lapwing, bat, sea animals that do not have fins and scales, all other flying, creeping things that have 4 feet not listed on the left. So the most common unclean ingredients that you might find, I think the most common of the unclean animals that people eat, perhaps unknowingly, are swine and unclean sea creatures, shellfish, etc. Certain products that you may not realize can contain parts of these unclean animals. So gelatin is an animal protein substance having gel-forming properties. It can be derived from pigs or cow, but the ingredients usually just say gelatin. It usually doesn't specify from which animal. It's used in food, but also in capsules, cosmetics, ointments, and other industrial products. And I have 2 references there. And for astaxanthin, this is typically used as an antioxidant and nutraceutical, so food supplement. It is a red fat-soluble pigment. Clean sources include salmon and trout, so those are fish that have fins and scales, but unclean sources include shrimp, crayfish, and krill. And astaxanthin is actually what gives these animals the red color. And pet food. The most popular brands of pet food contain mysterious meat meals, meat byproducts, fish meal, natural liver flavor, etc. Even the vet-recommended brands, prescription diets, contain lots of pork ingredients. And yes, these commands are for man, but the command is also not to touch the carcass of these animals that are unclean. And with these mysterious ingredients, it just says meat meal. You have no idea what kind of meat. And, I won't go into it because it's gross, but it could be any type of meat. And when I say any type of meat, I mean any type of meat. So part 4, clean and unclean recap. The new command of food includes specification of which animals are clean, aka food, and which animals are not clean, aka not food. These include cloven-footed, parts of the hoof, and chews the cud. Land animals must be all 3. Fish with scales and fins must be both. Clean fowls, and we don't get specifically named animals in that section, just says clean fowls. Insects that go upon all 4, plus legs above the feet, plus to leap upon the earth, must be all 3. Some of these unclean animal parts may be in foods that you would not expect. Always read labels and research if you don't know what something is. In the next one, part 2, I want to make some more animal definitions, lifestyle and diet of these animals, because I think it's interesting. For example, with pigs, they're more likely to carry parasites and worms. And it's interesting because, in scripture, Elohim isn't like, don't eat pig because they're more likely to contain parasites, but obviously he knows since he created. And we'll also talk about blood and fat. And I have a references guide here. And I also created this clean and unclean infographic, just a simple 1 page. This only lists the animals that are specifically named. So I didn't make any guesses or assumptions. This is the exact animals that are actually named. And let me see if I can zoom in. So for clean land animals, choose the cud, cloven-footed parts of the hoof, and then the verse references as well and the listed animals. Same with unclean land animals, and then clean flying animals, unclean flying animals, clean sea and creeping animals, and unclean sea animals. So the slides are in the description. You can click on the link, and then this in the references are also clickable. So you can use this as a little cheat sheet. I was thinking about making one that includes specifically named animals, but for now I don't want to guess. I want to look at the animal definitions first, and then maybe I will list out like the actual, but I think that this is pretty good. I mean, if it isn't clean, don't eat it, right? But there are some fish that don't have scales or fins, so that's why I think that specifically named clean animals would come in handy. But anyway, let me know if you have any questions and I'll include it in part 2. Thank you for watching.